The Battle of Ulundi took place at the Zulu capital of Ulundi, South Africa, on 4 July 1879 and was the last battle of the Anglo-Zulu War, marked with the bloody, brutal climax. After so many initial setbacks, including the massacres at Isandlwana and Rorke's Drift, the British Army broke the military power of the Zulu Kingdom by defeating the main Zulu army and capturing and burning the royal Kraal of oNdini, and their king, Cetswayo, was now on the run. The significant reinforcements were sent to Zululand, bolstering the British forces for a second invasion. These reinforcements, combined with strategic victories at Gingindlovu and Khambula, paved the way for the decisive Battle of Ulundi.
The British forces under the command of Lord Chelmsford comprised approximately 25,000 troops, including 1,000 cavalry, 9,000 regular infantry, and 24 artillery pieces, including Gatling guns. The Zulu army, commanded by umNtwana Ziwedu kaMpande, numbered between 12,000 and 15,000 Zulu warriors. On 3rd June, the main thrust of the second invasion began its slow advance on Ulundi. The 1st Division was to advance along the coast belt, supporting 2nd Division, which Wood's flying column, an independent unit, was to march on Ulundi from Rorke's Drift and Khambula. With his army damaged after Khambula, King Cetswayo refrained from attacking the extended and vulnerable supply lines. Consequently, the British advance was unopposed.
On the evening of 6 June, jittery British troops and artillery in lager at Fort Newdigate opened fire on an arriving PK company of Royal Engineers commanded by Lieutenant John Chard of Rorke's Drift fame, killing 2 horses and wounding 1. By the 16th, the slow advance was quickened by the news that Wolseley was on his way to Natal to take command. On the 17th, a depot named Fort Marshall was established, not far from Isandlwana. On 28 June, Chelmsford's column was a mere 17 miles away from Ulundi and had established the supply depots of Fort Newdigate, Fort Napoleon, and Port Durnford when Sir Garnet Wolseley arrived in Cape Town. Wolseley had cabled Chelmsford ordering him not to undertake any serious actions on the 23rd, but the message was only received through a galloper on this day. Chelmsford had no intention of letting Wolseley stop him from making a last effort to restore his reputation and did not reply. A second message was sent on 30 June reading, "Concentrate your force immediately and keep it concentrated. Undertake no serious operations with detached bodies of troops. Acknowledge receipt of this message at once and flash back your latest moves. I am astonished at not hearing from you." Wolseley, straining to assert command over Chelmsford, tried to join 1st Division, lagging along the coast behind the main advance. A final message was sent to Chelmsford explaining that he would be joining 1st Division and that their location was where Chelmsford should retreat if he was compelled. High seas prevented Wolseley landing at Port Durnford and he had to take the road. At the very time Wolseley was riding north from Durban, Chelmsford was preparing to engage the enemy. Wolseley's efforts to reach the front had been in vain. On the same day the first cable was received, Cetswayo's representatives again appeared. A previous reply to Chelmsford's demands had apparently not reached the British force. But now these envoys bore some of what the British commander had demanded: oxen, a promise of guns, and a gift of elephant tusks. The peace was rejected as the terms had not been fully met, and Chelmsford turned the envoys away without accepting the elephant tusks, and informed them that the advance would only be delayed 1 day to allow the Zulus to surrender 1 regiment of their army. Coot. The red coats were now visible from the royal kraal, and a dismayed Cetswayo was desperate to end the hostilities. With the invading enemy in sight, he knew no Zulu regiment would surrender. So Cetswayo sent a further 100 white oxen from his own herd along with Prince Napoleon's sword, which the Zulu had taken 1st June 1879 in the skirmish in which the prince had been killed. The Zulu umChicho regiment, guarding the approaches to the white Umfolozi River, Koot, where the British were camped, refused to let the oxen pass, deeming it a useless gesture. Seeing as it was impossible to meet all Chelmsford's demands, fighting was inevitable. The irate telegram from Wolseley, issued on 30th June, now reached Chelmsford, and with only 5 miles between him and a redemptive victory, it was ignored. On 3rd July, with negotiations having broken down, Colonel Buller, a cavalry force across the river to reconnoiter the ground beyond. A party of Zulus was seen herding goats near the Bilan stream
and troopers moved to round them up. On a hunch, Buller bellowed an order for them to stop and prepare to fire from the saddle. His instinct proved right. The 3,000 Zulus rose from the long grass at that moment and fired a fusillade before charging forth. 3 troopers were shot dead, and Buller ordered his men to retire. As they dashed back to the river, Baker's horse, who had been scouting further across, took up position and gave covering fire for the river crossing. Their crossing, in turn, was covered by the Transvaal Rangers on the opposite bank. This incident had placed the entire reconnaissance in grave danger, but Buller's alertness and leadership saved them from annihilation. Chelmsford was now convinced the Zulus wanted to fight and replied to Wolseley's 3rd message, informing him that he would indeed retreat to 1st Division if the need arose, and that he would be attacking the Zulus the next day. That evening, Chelmsford issued his orders. The British, having learnt a bitter lesson at Isandlwana, would take no chances meeting the Zulu army in the open with their normal line of battle, such as the Thin Red Line, like that employed at Balaclava. Their advance would begin at first light, prior to forming his infantry into a large hollow square with mounted troops covering the sides and rear. Neither wagon, lagers, nor trenches would be used, to convince both the Zulus and critics that a British square could beat them fairly in the open.